On the surface, this is just another military/war movie. And in many ways, it is just that as well. It's also not a very complicated movie. There aren't a ton of layers and there's not a million different things going on. It is very much focused on one particular scenario here, and that's it. And at a basic level, the story follows this young guy who enlists in the army, played by Wolff, who I've mostly seen in more like teen comedy romance sort of things. So him playing a soldier is a nice change of pace, and this role in particular does suit him. But anyway, his character is very much enthusiastic about joining up and quickly gets shipped overseas, where his squad soon gets a new sergeant who's in charge. And this is a man of action, he wants to get things done. He's not there to sit around doing nothing while his fellow soldiers get blown up by IEDs. He's also played by Alexander Skarsgård, who's been knocking it out of the park lately, with a whole range of performances in both TV and movies. And he does a very good job here too, being kinda intimidating to be honest. He's got this quiet, toned down, kinda scary thing going on here, where you're never quite sure what's going on behind that blank face of his. And it's very effective, it does exactly what it's supposed to do. But as I said, Wolff does a good job too, because he very much fits his character as well. A guy who's basically trying to be a stone cold killer, but deep down he is actually just sort of a nice guy. And without going into too much detail here, because as I mentioned it's a pretty simple movie, that conflict is the gist of the movie as well. It's at the heart of it. It's about morality, doing what's right, standing up for your values, and about war in general and how that can oftentimes easily blur the lines too. It's also about wanting to fit in and to please those around you, while simultaneously struggling with the morality of the situations you're put in. And you know what? I went into this expecting, well, not very much to be honest. But I really liked what they did here. I found the movie to be surprisingly compelling. Mainly because it really gets inside the main character's head. You know exactly what he's thinking and you get the internal conflict he's dealing with. I completely understood his mental struggles and that made it easy to relate to him. And I also like the fact that they didn't just make another oversimplified war movie. There is actually some depth and nuance here and it shows that things are never quite just black and white. There are a lot of gray areas when it comes to war, but when does that gray turn into black? When does that go too far and how does one deal with that when put into a very sketchy situation? Well, turns out that that's up to every individual person and everyone handles it differently. Now you can argue that there's always a right and wrong in these situations, and I would agree with that for the most part. However, this one just shows that things aren't always necessarily that simple. On paper it might be, but in practice, when you're in the middle of it, it's probably not. And yeah, I like that about this movie. I feel like it showed some horrific things that some people do, without passing too much judgment on the people involved. It felt like it mostly just presented the facts and laid it all out there. Just like, here's what happened, and it's pretty messed up. But I still don't feel like it went as far as to calling the individuals involved bad people necessarily. And it seemed to try its best to get you to understand their situation. To put the audience in their shoes and to, just get where they're coming from. To show that there's usually a lot more going on than what it looks like on the surface. With that being said, the situation this movie deals with is actually based on real events. And it is absolutely a messed up situation and there's only so much sympathy you can muster for the people involved. But my point is this, the movie at least tries and it does a good job too, showing you the complexity of it all. And that, along with the main character, did end up making this pretty compelling. It's also pretty solid from a more technical perspective as well. However, would I recommend this? Sure, why not? It's a pretty decent movie. So maybe give it a look. Or don't. After all, I'm not your dad. But hey, what are your thoughts on this? Have you seen it? Did you like it? Let me know. And if you enjoyed the video, maybe give it a thumbs up or sub to the channel, because that would be fantastic. And if you'd like, you can also support me on Patreon or PayPal through the links in the description. And as always, I appreciate you and thanks for watching.